The golden sunlight of the Arizona high desert began to stretch across the sand dunes, bathing the Horizon Wildlife Sanctuary in shades of amber. Here, amidst a vast space mimicking far-off savannas, an extraordinary story was quietly unfolding. Sarah Jennings, a conservation expert with over 10 years of experience, was conducting her routine morning rounds. She stopped in front of the enclosure of Leo, a male lion weighing nearly 200 kilograms with a majestic mane that looked as though it were woven from strands of golden silk. The relationship between Sarah and Leo had long been a symbol of trust at the sanctuary. There was no subjugation, only a deep sense of respect built over years. Usually, Leo would greet her with a soft chuff, the language of friendliness in the lion world, before returning to lounge under the shade of an ancient acacia tree. But today, the fresh morning air suddenly felt strangely heavy. Under the harsh sun, Leo was not resting. His amber eyes were locked on his Sarah with an unprecedented intensity. He paced incessantly along the perimeter fence, muscles rippling under his golden fur with every stride. Leo wasn't roaring out hunger, nor did he seem threatening. Instead, he emitted low-frequency vibrations from his chest that made the surrounding air feel as though it were trembling. For the first time in nearly a decade, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. It wasn't that she feared the beast. Rather, she realized that Leo was trying to tell her something that human language could not express. An anxious omen was present in the eyes of the king of the savannah. Mornings at the Horizon Sanctuary usually unfolded like a pre-programmed symphony, rhythmic and predictable. However, as the clock struck 10 a.m., that peace vanished entirely. Leo, renowned for his calm and regal demeanor, had completely cast aside his inherent pride. Instead of resting to avoid the intensifying Arizona heat, he began a series of actions that left the entire caretaking staff in shock. As Sarah walked along the observation gallery to check the water systems, Leo followed her every step from below. Every movement Sarah made was mirrored by the heavy, hurried footsteps of the lion. He pressed his massive body against the thick tempered glass, his hot breath fogging up the transparent surface. He emitted short, frantic huffs, creating streaks of mist on the glass. This was not a roar of authority meant to intimidate, but a sound that resembled a desperate plea. Whenever Sarah stopped, Leo stopped, his amber eyes never leaving her for a single second. When she turned to speak to a colleague, Leo suddenly let out a thunderous roar so powerful it shook the glass, causing distant tourists to halt in fear that the barrier might shatter. This abnormality could not be ignored. In the natural world, a male lion rarely wastes energy in the middle of the day unless there is a direct threat. But here, there were no enemies. Mark, the sanctuary manager and a seasoned expert, rushed over. He observed Leo and then looked at Sarah, concern etched on his face. Mark suspected that perhaps the extreme heat had caused Leo to suffer heat stroke, or that a wild animal from the desert had breached the buffer zone. They quickly checked the entire perimeter, reviewed the quality of food and water, and even monitored the temperature of the underground shelters. Everything was perfect. There wasn't a single flaw in the operations. However, Leo's agitation only increased. He began using his massive claws to scratch violently at the tempered glass, creating ear-piercing screeches while his gaze remained fixed on Sarah's abdomen. Sarah tried to brush off the worry, offering a forced smile and telling herself she was just tired from overworking in the sun. "I'm fine, Leo, just a bit short on sleep," she whispered, placing her hand against the cool glass. The moment her hand touched the glass, Leo reacted violently. He lunged his heavy body into the partition. A dull thud echoed through the sanctuary. He wasn't trying to escape. He seemed to be trying to break through the barrier to reach Sarah, to stop her or protect her from something only he could perceive through that glass. Management was forced to evacuate all visitors to ensure safety. Leo refused to eat and refused to enter his den for shade. He stood there in the scorching heat like a golden statue on guard, radiating an intense SOS signal that, at that moment, no one could decipher. The beast's stubbornness felt like a silent warning, vibrating in Sarah's heart as an unnameable dread. By afternoon, the tension at the sanctuary had pushed everyone to their breaking point. The Arizona sun began to mellow, but the storm inside Sarah grew larger. She started to feel a dull ache in her side, a sensation she had intentionally ignored for weeks, reassuring herself it was just the result of hauling equipment or work stress. However, looking into Leo's eyes, which were fixed exactly on that painful spot on her body, she suddenly remembered ancient stories about lions being able to scent the change of life. In the world of biology, there is a miraculous but often overlooked phenomenon. Apex predators have a sense of smell thousands of times more sensitive than humans. They can detect minute chemical changes in sweat or breath, even the transformation of cells, before clinical symptoms become apparent. Sarah decided to conduct a small test to verify her growing suspicion. She asked Mark to walk along the glass path where she had been standing. As predicted, Leo completely ignored Mark. He lay down, eyes half closed, tail twitching calmly as if Mark were an invisible part of the landscape. But the moment Sarah stepped back into his line of sight, Leo sprang up like a compressed spring. He began his frantic pacing again, letting out low, mournful moans that sounded like the cries of a friend helplessly watching a loved one in danger. That sound was no longer the roar of a predator, but a sorrowful warning. In that moment, Sarah froze. She understood that this was no longer about the lion's health. It was about hers. Leo wasn't being bad. He was trying to save her life using the only language he had. Urged by Mark and shaken by Leo's steadfast gaze, Sarah decided to leave the sanctuary early to visit a local clinic. There, amidst the scent of antiseptic and the glow of white neon lights, she told the doctor the story of the lion. The doctor smiled skeptically at her animal instinct story, but seeing Sarah's pale face and determination, he agreed to perform a series of blood tests and an intensive ultrasound. Sitting in the quiet waiting room, the stillness of the hospital stood in stark contrast to the thunderous roars and chaos she had left behind. Sarah realized that Leo wasn't attacking her. He was playing the role of a silent guardian. He was using all his power as a king to tell her that her vibe, her body's chemical signature, had changed. Leo seemed to be mourning a loss that she hadn't even realized yet. In that moment, Sarah's fear vanished, replaced by a choking wave of emotion for the pure affection of the wild beast. She realized she wasn't alone. Out there, under the acacia tree in the heart of the desert, a friend was staying awake to worry for her life. The test results returned 2 days later. When Sarah walked into the doctor's office, his attitude had completely changed. There was no skeptical smile or casual demeanor. Instead, his face was grave and urgent. The doctor flipped through the medical file, cleared his throat, and looked her in the eye. "It's a miracle you decided to come in that day, Sarah. We found an abnormal tumor in its early stages, something that, if delayed by even a month, would have become extremely dangerous and uncontrollable." Sarah sat in silence, her breath hitching. She understood that this was not a coincidence, nor a random miracle. It was the result of the persistence of a special diagnostic specialist, weighing over 200 kilograms with golden fur. Leo didn't have a medical degree, an ultrasound machine, or lab equipment, but he had an instinctive connection that modern science sometimes cannot fully explain. The lion had sensed the presence of the disease through subtle changes in her body odor, sense that a human nose is entirely incapable of detecting. While Sarah had to undergo a minor but decisive surgery to remove the tumor, she was forced to stay away from the sanctuary to rest and recover. Updates from Mark via phone left her both amazed and moved. He said that from the moment Sarah left the sanctuary gates on that fateful day, Leo's demeanor shifted instantly. He stopped roaring, stopped clawing at the glass, and stopped his frantic pacing. Instead, the lion majestically walked toward the old acacia tree, lay down, and fell into a deep, peaceful sleep for 3 consecutive days. It was as if a soldier had just finished a life-or-death guard duty. Leo could finally lay down the burden on his regal shoulders. He knew the message had been delivered, and his friend was now safe. The story of the Dr. King quickly spread throughout the local community and the conservation world. People were moved by the idea that a creature we often view as a predatory beast could possess such a level of empathy and a desire to protect a member of his pride that transcended language. During her recovery at home, Sarah frequently looked at photos of Leo. She realized their bond had never been one-sided. She was the caretaker, the one providing food and protection in captivity. But in the hierarchy of a true lion family, Leo was the ultimate protector. Under the brilliant Arizona sun, the Horizon Sanctuary was no longer just a place for wildlife rescue. It had become a symbol of healing. It stood as a testament to a simple yet profound truth. Nature does not just need our protection. Sometimes, it is nature that is protecting us from invisible dangers. 6 weeks later, the Arizona sky was once again a cloudless, deep blue. Desert winds blew through the scrub brush, carrying the scent of hot sand and freedom. Sarah stepped out of the car and took a deep breath. She felt like a person reborn. Her body felt lighter, free of the dull aches and lethargy she had once mistaken for aging. She walked toward Leo's enclosure, her legs trembling slightly with emotion. The entire sanctuary seemed to go quiet as Sarah appeared. Staff members stopped their work, watching from a distance. They wanted to see how the king would welcome his friend home. Leo was lying in the shade of the acacia tree, eyes half closed as he enjoyed a midday nap. When Sarah approached the tempered glass and softly called his name, a magical change occurred. The lion didn't spring up forcefully as he usually did. He slowly opened his eyes, lifted his head high, and looked directly at her. There was no more agitation, no more roars for help, and no more hurried, anxious footsteps. Leo stood up, stretched majestically, and slowly approached the glass. He stopped right in front of Sarah, separated only by the thin barrier. Leo looked at her with deep, gentle eyes, a gaze that seemed to say, "Everything is okay now." He let out a soft chuff, the characteristic sound of greeting and affection. Then, he gently rubbed his massive head against the glass, right where Sarah had placed her hand, like an embrace saying goodbye to old pain. After a few moments of standing silently together, Leo leisurely strolled back to his tree, lay down, and closed his eyes. His mission was truly complete. This story serves as a powerful reminder that we are all part of a vast, invisible web of connection. Sometimes, the answers to life's biggest problems don't come from digital screens or dry medical textbooks, but from the quiet observation of the world around us. Leo didn't need words to save a life. He only needed his heart, his instinct, and a pure love for the person who cared for him. If the story of Leo and Sarah touched your heart, take a moment to look at the four-legged friends around you. Sometimes they understand us better than we understand ourselves. Have you ever experienced a moment where an animal changed your life, or simply comforted you during your hardest times? Please share your story in the comments below. We always treasure and want to hear about those magical connections. We believe in the power of stories that bring faith and healing. Your support by liking and subscribing to the channel not only helps us grow, but also helps spread these humane messages to more people around the world. Always be kind to wilderness, because you never know when nature itself will be the one to take your hand and lead you through the storm. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next touching story.